How do you take fixed curriculum and transform it into experiential learning? Hey, in part one of our video, we talked about the broader context of how we can take an event that is designed around a fixed curriculum. In this case, a 8-hour class, an 8-hour clinic that's designed off of 140-page workbook and a 60-slide deck. And we're going to turn it into an experiential learning environment for a group of real estate agents. So, hey, stick with us today where we're going to actually go through the mechanics of the first round of agenda design with all of that in mind. Hey, my name is Josh Friberg, and I work as a transformational event designer and MC. I work with clients and customers to help them redesign their conferences, conventions, and retreats, and in this case, a one-day workshop, and turn those into experiential learning environments, places where we shift the learning from passive to active, where we engage all participants as co-teachers and co-learners, and we invite people to move beyond being just individuals in the room, but by being part of a community. In the course of the last video plus this video, we're going to actually walk through a business planning clinic that has been pre-written by somebody else, not me, though I've been teaching this for almost 8 or 9 years. And what we're going to do is we're going to transform it into an experiential learning workshop. And I'm going to show you how to do that. In our previous video, we talked about the context of how we do that. We think about adult learning differently, that it's not just passive consumption. This workshop, even following its best practices, often is only about 80%, or is often about 80% lecture and talking at folks. I know because I've had to bring the throat coat tea and cough drops to get through the 8-hour version of it. And only about 20% participation by the learners. And even that, I would say, is a little bit on the thin side for this, which tends to be a pretty heady topic, a little bit more technical topic. We're going to shift that balance. Now, I'd love to be able to say that we're going to make it 20% content and 80% interaction and active learning experiences. I think it's probably going to be closer to about 40% passive lecture or just direct, strict content, and about 60% collaborative, active learning cycles. So we'll see by the time it's finished. But let's talk about how we go from where we were in the last video, where we talked about stakeholders, key stakeholders to the event, their ideal outcomes, and then turning that into an actual agenda. Well, here's how we're going to do this. So the first place I'm going to go to is I'm going to use a variation of an appreciative inquiry change model, right? This is comes out of appreciative inquiry in Case Western Reserve University, and they have a model that they use for organizational change. And the training I've been done on it uses what's called a 5I model. And so the 5I model starts with this idea: if we're going to do change, and remember, when I'm walking in to do a business planning clinic for real estate agents, we're asking them to change, to do something different in 2025 than they did in 2024. So how do we get there? We start by doing what's called initiate. And this is honestly just saying, hey, brain, what is the problem we're working on? Or hey, organization, what's the thing we're here to do? What's the thing we're here to do? And I think the way that I'm going to do that is, I think I'm probably going to do like an opening purposeful connection exercise where we say, why is it important that you have like a strong business plan, or you have that you have a strong business plan going into 2025, or that you have that's going to be a really good one. Why is it important to you that you have a clear business plan for 2025? Because when I'm designing this agenda, here's what I'm asking. I'm not asking what content do I want to share. That's the typical question. That's conference 1.0. That's learning 1.0. What content do I want to pour into these empty vessels sitting before me? Right? But under the appreciative inquiry model, under the exchange model that I'll be using, the people in front of me are smart people. They are PhD experts in their life, in their values, in their motivation, right? And while I may have some things to teach them, in this case, about real estate sales, that room is going to be smarter than me. No question, right? Because anytime you put a couple dozen smart people in an industry together, the room is going to be smarter than whoever's up front on stage. So I'm going to be asking, what conversations do I want to have? So the first conversation, when I initiate the class, when I initiate the workshop, why is it important to have a clear business plan for 2025? The next place we go after we initiate in the appreciative inquiry model is we move to, or in the exchange model, is we move to identity. And the idea that came out of the brilliance of appreciative inquiry was that we stopped looking at what's broken, what's not working, what are our weaknesses, and we instead asked, what are our strengths? What are we exceptional at? And how do we do more of that? And I find this is really great for the real estate agents that I get the privilege of working with, is they always feel like, oh, I'm terrible at this, and that person's great at this, and I'm not. And instead we go, yeah, but what do you crush at? Why don't you just do that? Well, they light up. They get really energized. And so what we're going to do, I think the best way to dig into identity, to dig into their strengths, is with a paired interview. And because I kind of know where I'm going here, I am going to do it a little bit out of order, but I think I'm going to do that paired interview at lunchtime. That's how we're going to do that. And that'll be a good break because that's going to lead us into some stuff in the afternoon that I think will make a big difference. Also, we're trying to get a lot done because we're taking an 8-hour workshop and we're turning it into 6 hours. And we're also trying to shift the learning from 80%, right, 80-20 content to collaboration. We're flipping the script on that, and we're going to try and do about 40 and 60. And so I think this will fit in really good right here. All right, so after we've thought about what our identity is, what our strengths are that we bring to this, the next place we actually go to, and this is the other one of the brilliant things about appreciative inquiry, is that a lot of people will say, this is where we are, what's next? And they'll just look at like their feet and try and figure out where to step next. What appreciative inquiry does is it invites people, we call this the speed of imagination, to go deep into the future and imagine and really fully fill in the details of that imagination, right? Come with me and you'll see a world of pure imagination, right? We're going to invite people to imagine this amazing world, which is December 2025, and they just had the business of their life, right? The business of their life. And so what we're going to do this imagine phase and imagine a perfect future shortly after we do like kind of the agenda. I'm going to put this imagine right here, and we're going to do it really around like profit and the economic model. And so they're going to have a chance. Oh, I didn't show you that. We're going to do that around the profit and their economic model. And why I think this is going to work really well, we gave them some prep questions where we said, how much income do you need to make to fund like your lifestyle, to pay down debt, to put money in savings? And so what we'll say is, imagine it's the end of 2025. You've made more profit than you can imagine. You were able to pay down some debt. You were able to put some money into savings. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Who's there? Who's impacted by that? Were you able to give more money to charity? And gonna give time and space for them to really imagine that picture. Because see, at some point they're going to wake up and it's going to be like February 8th and it's a Tuesday and they have to get up and they've got to do some stuff they don't feel like doing. Well, what if they have this like wonderful imagined picture of 2025? Their business has been really profitable. They've had more time for their family. They're really excited about what they're doing, right? They have that picture to kind of pull them forward. And now all of a sudden, because they understand a clear business model that says, well, it's Tuesday, February 8th. I don't know if February 8th is a Tuesday, but I can get up and I can make my social media videos. I could do the follow-up calls in my CRM. I can send out the newsletter, right? They are now motivated to do those daily activities that make such a big difference in their business. And so that's the power of imagination, right? And the other thing is when they develop that really powerful picture and they share it with other people, is those people are now, they're won over into that vision of the future. They're going to be there to help, to hold accountable, and to befriend those other independent contractors they work shoulder to shoulder with to be better, right? And so this is a really powerful way that we can use something as honestly as dry as business planning to give people fuller life and experience. This is why experiential learning is so great. All right, well, let's keep going. Because the next step in our 5I cycle is now we have to innovate, right? Which is, said another way, we've got to come up with some ideas about what we're going to do. And I think the best place to apply this in the model of the class as written is to dig into how they're going to lead generate. And this is probably the innovate. So the imagine stage is going to go in the morning, followed by talking about their profit and economic model. This is where they're actually going to do the math on like how many houses they need to sell to be profitable. And then over here, I think we're going to put the innovate, which is, all right, so now how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? You need to sell, 28 houses this next year. Well, how are you going to do that? They're going to need to lead generate that, right? And then the other one, this one maybe doesn't fit perfectly, but it's probably a good place to do it, is they do have to create at least a slimmed down version of a budget. And so that's because, again, they want to be profitable in this business. There's my brother and I were leading a class once, a workshop of dentists, and somebody said, I want to be more profitable. And my brother and I both went, oh, we could fix that for you right now. And the guy's like, well, how? And my brother said, more revenue. And I said, lower expenses. And we're like, done. Now you're more profitable, right? The math on profitability is actually really simple. Most people, want to make it more complicated than that. But it really is just higher revenue, lower expenses, and you're going to have more profit. Actually, it's one or the other or both, right? And so we're going to do that during the innovation stage. Now, here's where, and this is where I love what we can do with experiential learning. And particularly when we start talking about two things, which is turning the participants into the experts because they're experts in their own lives, and where we could talk about inviting people into community. And that is the fifth I of the 5I cycle is to implement. And this is where we're going to create, and I think this is how we're going to kind of end the day, is we're going to get in groups of, well, it depends. I still have to work out the timing on this. We're going to do that in the next video. But we're going to work out the timing so that we have time to actually share our business plan, right? Share our business plan with others and maybe even subject it to a little bit of peer coaching. I think this is going to be a great place to have this implement experience. The point here is when we've on this rough cut design, agenda design, what we're starting with is what are the conversations that we want to have? And we've identified a handful of really important conversations. First, we're going to have an implementation conversation where we invite the participants to tap into their own motivation and their reasoning for wanting to be there, right? Why is it important that I have a clear business plan for 2025? I think that's a super important conversation. That conversation is going to be 15 or 20 minutes by the time we're all done with it. Second conversation. Imagine it's the end of 2025 and your business has done so well. It's impacted your family, your life, your community. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Right? So that's an imagine conversation. We're going to move into a paired interview, which is really going to be around identity. What are your strengths? What are you amazing at? What are you exceptional at? That's another really great conversation. So if the imagine conversation is somewhere in like the 20 to 30 minute, or probably 20-minute range, our paired interview is going to be about a 30-minute interview, 15 minutes each direction around strengths. We're going to move into an innovation conversation, which is how might we generate the leads we need to? And then an implementation stage, where an implementation conversation where people actually share their commitment to action moving forward. These will be 5 really rich conversations that allow people to have peer-to-peer learning and really make commitments that are important to them, commitments that will actually change their trajectory, and that are internally derived, right? That aren't me telling them what to do, but me inviting them to say what will they do, which increases compliance, or that they actually follow through with it so much more. Hey, in our next video, we're going to actually take this really rough cut agenda and we're going to start turning it into the real agenda. I'm going to show you a tool called Session Lab, and in that tool, we're going to be able to move these pieces around until we get the timing just right. We're going to have a script that we can follow for the entire workshop, something we can actually share with the client that hired me, and by the way, has a bunch of the building blocks that we'll use for future agendas that I might use in different environments with different industries, different audiences, different participants. So come back for video number 3 of how to transform fixed curriculum and turn it into a experiential learning workshop.